Right, Vince Freeman, a man in demand at the minute, on tour with Scouting for Girls. And it feels like you're just everywhere, every night. Jetting off to wonderful Boston tonight.
Yes, I tried my best to be omnipresent.
Here, there, he's everywhere. Still shows in London, Stockport.
Yep.
Wonderful Stockport. And Hull. I mean, It doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Do you know what? I love Hugh. Love Hugh? That's my tour manager. Hull. He's probably listening outside. I absolutely love Hull. Just before the tour, so in April I did a UK tour with my band. We ended up calling it the Nobody Knows Who We Are tour. But it was wonderful, and met a couple of guys at the Sheffield gig, and this chap called Andy. He was like, "I've got a venue," and I was like, "Do you?" And he said, "Yeah, it's in my back garden, and it's called the Dog House." And it's the most amazing. Like, me and Hugh, we travelled up from Cheltenham, long way, and we had fish and chips in Andy's kitchen, and then later on went into the Dog House, and it holds about sort of 40 people, but it's like literally in his back garden. It's the most amazing gig. So yeah, I have fond memories of Hull. I can't wait to go back.
That's brilliant. Do you know what you do need to try out when you go to Hull?
Right.
You need to go to the Deep.
The Deep.
Yeah, it's like this massive triangular building.
Do you have to kind of like go low voice as well? The Deep.
The Deep.
Yeah.
I've not got a low voice, but squeaky horrible. But it's like a massive aquarium. It's crazy.
Isn't there a song? It's sort of like deep, deep down. That like there's a lyric. I can't remember who it is. I think it's E17.
Ooh.
You'll have to look it up.
I'll have to find that one.
Sorry, I did tell you I sort of get easily distracted.
Oh, it's easily done. Well, you've been on the road since late September.
Yeah.
When did you last have a day off?
The first part of the tour was quite well spread out, so it would be like 3 days and then a day off. And generally speaking, we wouldn't be too far away from where I live. So it was this part of the tour though has been, for want of a better word, brutal. Brutal. It's kind of like somebody looked at a map and then just got really dyslexic with it and just kind of went, oh well, we'll just do all of these places. There's the last few dates we one day we did like Middlesbrough, and then we were in Dundee, then we were in Aberdeen, and then on the day off we had to kind of get from Aberdeen down to Wolverhampton via Newport. Yeah, that'll give you an idea. It's been here,
there, and everywhere. Does all this travelling kind of take it out of you, or?
You know what? If you'd asked me like 2 days ago, I would have gone, surprisingly, I feel really good. I think part of that is the fact that I'm the opening act. So because I'm the opening act, I kind of finish and I'll go and talk to anybody who is even vaguely interested in my music, and also people that don't even know who I am. I'll go and speak to them as well. But it does mean we kind of generally kind of get back to the hotel or wherever we're staying, fairly early. However, the last couple of days I've been kind of going, whew, take a breath. We've only got a few more to go, but it does take its toll a bit,
The big finish is coming up.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I think like Scouting for Girls, they're maniacs. I mean, they did like 60 dates in the summer festivals, 60. And this is a 30, it was 33 dates. There was one cancelled because the venue closed down, I think. But yeah, it was a 32 date tour of the UK, which is monstrous.
Absolutely feral, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But being here, there, and everywhere, what is the best story that you've got from this tour so far?
Oh my gosh,
there's got to be one somewhere.
There's loads of kind of road stories,
Yeah.
where I think if you go on, if you go on holiday or you go on a road trip with your mates, there'll always be like a saying or something that that comes up. I think probably what will happen is as we go through this chat, I'll probably we'll probably be talking about something 3 questions down the line, and then I'll go, oh, I can't think of anything like to add. I mean, the whole thing has been absolutely hilarious. Hugh, I keep saying my tour manager, he's my bass player, and like he makes me sound good, basically. But I don't think I could have done this whole tour on my own. And not because I need cuddles, although they're all right, but just mainly, because it's a lot, doing that, and actually because I've had someone with me the whole time, it's been hilarious, just everything from just kind of when to stop, when to not, it's just it's been real fun. But I know I haven't answered that question because I know the way my brain works, and I'll come back to that.
It will be talking about something really, really deep and meaningful, and you'll be like, wait.
Yeah.
Right, we'll move swiftly on. We'll talk about your album that you released earlier this year, Scars, Ghost and Glory. And first of all, just want to say how amazing the listen it is.
Oh, thank you.
And secondly, congratulations on 500,000 Spotify streams yesterday.
Yeah.
Get in there. But what most people don't know is you put everything into this album, like the name suggests.
Yeah.
Was the genesis for the album back in 2020 when the pandemic hit? And, like most creative people, the work dried up.
Yep.
And what did you decide to do?
So the genesis of the album was probably about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've always been very much a perfectionist. I'm my own critic. I have a tendency, I think, because of the way my brain works. If you ask me to tidy the house, I'll start in the kitchen. 5 minutes later, I'll leave the kitchen half finished, move on to the hallway, and never look at the house while I'm tidying it until I've actually finished, because it gets a lot worse. So I've kind of always been like that. So I've probably got about 400 or 500 songs unfinished on a hard drive. I'll get there. They'll be finished eventually. So yeah, and I always felt that everything was a compromise. So I never felt really committed enough, because I didn't feel like I either had the opportunity, the skill set, or the finance, I guess, to create the album that I really wanted to do. So flip back to what you asked me. I kind of thought I was like just getting to a point where I was like, yes, I've made it. I got asked to write for Alicia Keys' team literally a week before the first lockdowns. And I was down there doing that. And I remember thinking, I finally got my toe in, After all these years, somebody's called me that's like, that you don't get to call. And I was in London writing for Swiss Beats' label, with a new artist in there. And I was like, this is just like, this is everything. And then the whole world shut down. And then for 12 months, I genuinely tried to kind of do everything and anything, including, live streams, guitar lessons, songwriting, try to, pitch to, I even tried to get an online, music lecturing job. Apparently I'm overqualified, which is hilarious. And yeah, in the end, I was like, we're going to lose the house. There was no income coming in. And so I bought a horse box. And, obviously, I decided to turn that into a coffee truck. And so I did that. And I guess, yeah, I think vicariously that was the genesis of the album, because, not only was I not particularly great at making coffee, which meant that I'd spend a lot of my days. I mean, literally, I've got videos of myself kind of making videos of myself because I was going crazy because I just I didn't have any customers. Um, uh, but it allowed me to observe, and it's really interesting, seeing people pass you by, like on a daily basis. You kind of make up little stories about them, who they are, and oh, there's the runner guy, there's, and you get mothers dragging their kids uphill because they're crying because they haven't got the toy that they wanted in town and all that kind of stuff. And I served a coffee to a music lawyer, and turned out that he asked me how good I was, and I didn't know he was a music lawyer, so I was just shooting the breeze, and I went, "I'm good enough that you don't need to blow smoke up my, you know." And the next day he came back and he said, I love what you said. Made a couple of phone calls, and if you'd like, I've got this guy that would like to come and see you, and he's now my manager." And yeah, so very long story, not very short, but that was the start of it. And from getting a manager, my manager's amazing at spreading belief, and you know, he's totally involved with me and the music. He came out of retirement. He was the first manager of the Sex Pistols. Managed Dexy's Midnight Runners, and and he came out of retirement to manage me, and he's slowly managed to create a team around this. And obviously the first port of call was to record an album.
Oh, that is such a crazy story.
Yeah. I got a few.
Just a couple. But what was the time like traveling around in the Coffee Rocks trailer? Was it a time of almost frustration going around to these festivals and watching other people perform like where you wanted to be?
Well, I tell you something. I mean, there was two specific occasions where, Coffee Rocks. I kind of have a Coffee Rocks was the name of the business, by the way, and I had a kind of a love-hate relationship with the thing because, it was really hard work, and for the most part, it would be like getting up and getting kicked in the shins deliberately every day, and then there'd be other days where you'll run off your feet, and it's just so exhilarating because it feels like you're performing. You've got a queue of 18 people back for the whole day at a festival, and there's nothing quite like that. It's great fun, But the two stories I remember is the first festival I went to, and I didn't say this to anybody because it's a little bit kind of ego centric, as it were. But I remember kind of watching from my horse box and looking at the guys on the main stage. I think it was on the Saturday, and then I realised that cumulatively, I'd sold more records than the whole of the main stage lineup for that whole day. And that was kind of a moment. I was like, "What's wrong with this picture?" And I think the best one, and it was fun. It was really funny, and genuinely, it was funny. It wasn't a kind of like, why me? I wrote a track that ended up being co-written with Fedde Le Grand. I don't know whether you remember the song. Put your hands up for this city, right?
Yes.
So, I didn't write that one. But he had I think it was 2022, might have been 21. The track called Devils, and it was his kind of comeback single, and it was released as Fedde Le Grand and Vince Freeman, so it wasn't even featuring, it was like and Vince Freeman. I was like, oh my god. I remember the day it came out, it did like 50,000 streams in like 5 hours, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and I got a ping from Universal saying happy release day, Vince, right? And I'm stirring pizza sauce. And then I looked up my Instagram to see what Freddy was up to, and he was at a pool party in Cuba. And I was like, what is wrong with this picture? But like I say, it was really odd because it wasn't like a, why not me? I just found it really funny. So yeah, I mean, I have fond and sort of, I've interesting memories about, Coffee Rocks.
You touched on it earlier,
Yeah.
and some of the things that you were saying, the time in that trailer inspired the song Passing By.
It did, yeah.
And there's a few things you were saying earlier that were lines in the song.
Yeah.
How did that all come about?
I was freezing my nuts off, basically. I got given this spot and I thought it was amazing because it was right next to an ice rink at Christmas. And for whatever reason, I think, for whatever reason, I just wasn't busy most of the time. So most of the time I was genuinely freezing cold and standing at the front of my horse box. My horse box has these wings that open out. And so you get and I remember watching this person go by and I was like, it's weird. It's like 120-degree version of someone's life, And that was the first line that I wrote. These days, when I started out, I used to need the music at the same time. Most of the time now, I just write lyrics all the time. I mean, if you looked at my phone, I've got a lyrics folder, and it's like my brain falls out into that. So I started writing that song back then. Just little, I remember writing, there was this guy, and I think it was at 10 o'clock, just when I was packing up. And this guy, the guys that are so fit that they run more upwards than they do across?
Yes.
He's all upright, he's like this, and he's just absolutely loving whatever he's listening to. And I kind of came up with this lyric, pounding the pavements. And and I was like, pounding the pavements tuned into a soundtrack. And I was like, but I'm never going to hear that soundtrack. And it's like, you're a world away from me, a soundtrack that can never be mine. And that's sort of, so that's the ideas and stuff.
that's just boggled my mind. It's like, I'm always walking around with my headphones on, absolutely jamming to my tunes.
Yeah.
And there's someone just on the other side or walking past me listening to something completely different. And I've just never had that thought before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe, I've always, I think when I was younger, I sort of struggled with the idea that I was different. And I don't think I'm different in the sense that I'm different, I'm completely unique. I mean that kind of, it's taken me a very long time to realise that we're all different. And, we all have brains that work a little bit differently to others. I cannot concentrate on anything for more than 2 seconds flat, except music. If it consumes me and it stills me. And, so, my wife often says, she goes, it's just like, why would you even think that? And it's just, I guess, for some people, if you ask them to say a word, they just say the word. Other people will see the word, and other people will see the word and then, create a whole TV script in their head. Kind of what happens with me, and it's tiring.
It's tiring, but it creates some incredible music, and music that tells a story. It's just a million times better than generic song.
Oh,
and
God, yeah.
I love that about your music.
Oh, thank you.
And I just wanted to touch on your song, "The Sun Is Shining Down."
Yeah,
it's beautiful, motivational. It's just such
Yeah.
a thankful song. The line in it, "I'm alive and I'm feeling fine."
Yeah.
There's been some serious days and years when you have not been feeling fine. You've had some, you know, you've had some serious like physical struggles in your life.
Yeah.
Mind just talking us through that?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, Sun is Shining, just for the benefit of kind of transparency. Sun is Shining was written by a guy called JJ Gray, and I got asked to do a vocal. A producer friend of mine rang me up and said, "I've got the perfect song for you, um, and I need to record it. Would you like to come?" And he sent me the song, and it just broke my heart. I was like, "This is how have I never heard this song?" And up to that, you know, up to when Lost Frequencies released it as a like a dance track, um, you know, it had been heard by maybe about 40,000 people in the world, and it was just like it's a beautiful song, and um, I kind of feel like I have like enough of an affinity with it that I wanted to do my own version on the album. But yeah, I've digressed because I just wanted to make that clear that like that's the one,
Yeah.
I guess, cover on the album, but it's because it kind of feels, you know, I feel like I have a real affinity for it.
Do you know what? I didn't know that, and it feels like it was just made for you.
Yeah, I think you know, I look at sometimes when you know someone does a cover, you know, Whitney Houston, you know, I will always love you, you know, it's a Dolly Parton song.
Hmm.
Not very many people know that, you know, and I guess my favorite version of "With a Little Help from My Friends" is the Joe Cocker version, not the Beatles version, you know. Hallelujah, you know. Jeff Buckley's version is sublime, and it's like it's his, and it always was. You know, I'm not sure that. I just feel that I have a real, you know, I just have a real connection to the song, and you know, I'm very thankful to the guy that wrote it. You know, but yeah, yeah, you talked about pain and suffering.
I know we're getting deep now, aren't we? Getting into the nitty gritty.
Do you know what? And I'm not going to try and make light of it because you know, I've had a lot, you know, but there are a lot of people that have also had a lot. You know, there's a girl that came to see me at Wolverhampton, a girl called Tash. She had a car accident about. She was a teacher, had a car accident about I don't know 10 years ago, and she's paraplegic now, and you know, and it's you know, it's just kind of like there's always somebody that you know, there's always you know, you don't have to look very far to find a hero, you know, and so as much as that's part of my story, and you know, living with pain, by the way, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
You know, you do become, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. You know, it's very easy to become your worst version of yourself. So yeah, I mean, there've been a lot. I had a real shock this year. So I got over all of that. And this is the first time I've said this on air actually. So after the first tour in April, I got ill and I ended up with pneumonia on holiday in Turkey, and I had double pneumonia, which basically is like acute pneumonia, acute pneumonic in both lungs. That then pushed my heart into AF, and then I was told that I was in acute heart failure, and yeah, and I was like, really, you know, and that's scary. I think you know, the back side of things, that was scary for other reasons. You know, that was scary because I thought that I might not at at some point walk. You know, you know, when I went into hospital the first time, I was literally strapped head to toe, and I had a nurse coming in every 10 minutes to check that I could still feel my toe, because if I moved wrong, I would have severed my sciatic nerve, and you know, so that's scary for that reason. This year, that's that's a different level because you know don't Google Doctor, by the way. Anybody who's thinking that that's a really good idea, especially if you look at heart failure, that's not a thing.
No.
And I feel like I feel like it's really weird to say, like, I was just going to say like a walking miracle, but like the back thing I wasn't supposed to come back from because it's actually it's supposed to be a degenerative condition. I haven't taken a painkiller in 3 years for my back, and there is no real explanation for that. And the heart failure thing you don't come back from. And I got told I had an MRI about 2 weeks ago, and I was told that I don't have any scarring, I don't have anything, and I'm in upper normal ranges of heart function. And genuinely, the cardiac consultant went, but I'm very confused because people don't do that. So yeah, so it's been hard, but also I think I try and be thankful, and I'm very grateful for the wins. I guess that's the glory part of the album title. All the scars, all the ghosts, all the little regrets, but the glory for me, what isn't the like, I've finally done it. It's the little wins, it's the waking up next to your wife that still loves you after all these years, and your kids and all that. And yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of it, really. It's as much as it's coloured my experience in life, and it really does tell you who you are. When you're faced with stuff like that, you do find out who you are. But other than that, more than anything, I've learned to be grateful for, for the stuff, like
the
free
stuff.
coffee.
Yeah. Oh, nothing better than a good coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's
It's all right.
incredibly powerful and moving. Now, gonna go back in time a little bit.
Okay.
Have you always been a musical kind of guy?
Not until I was about 21. I grew up in Plymouth, my lover. So I used to talk like that, and I grew up in a world where boys did sport and girls talked about boys. And doing music or being the guy, the kid that sang, was just a recipe for getting beaten up or bullied or both. Yeah, so I loved sport. I had an absolutely amazing childhood, by the way. I always sang. I always made up my own songs walking to school, but that's kind of as far as it went. And it was definitely because, it's like, oh no, music's, no, that's for girls, but it wasn't something that I kind of knew or felt that I was missing. I was good at sport. I was one of those annoying kids, like at school, like I had good grades, and if there was a school team or whatever, I'd be fairly involved pretty much every single sport that you can imagine. Yeah. So I ended up going to uni to do sports science and psychology. So, it's about as far away as, definitely didn't give me any kind of skills for my career. But yeah. So I wasn't always, a musician.
Do you remember the first time that you picked up a guitar?
Yeah, I do. My mum used to work. So she, around Christmas time, she would usually kind of take on a second job. And she was working at a factory, and it was Christmas Eve, and one of her mates went, "Anybody want this?" And it was a guitar, and my mum didn't have any time to wrap it. So the next morning, I was like 21, and like, so it wasn't like, she probably would have wrapped it if I was 4, but she just put it in a bin liner and she went, "Oh yeah, got you this last night." That wasn't my only present, by the way. It was just, it was just literally a kind of an extra, and it was broken. It had 4 strings as opposed to 6, and it was genuinely, and I can say this, and I know it probably sounds like an origin story. I didn't know I was missing something until the moment I was given that guitar. I didn't leave my room for 4 days trying to figure this thing out. But yeah, it was really odd because I didn't know how frustrated and angry I was until I had something that would allow me to have a outlet for all the crazy stuff that goes on in my head. And I kind of feel like, people find outlets for that in, all different ways, expression, art, poetry, just reading, taking a walk. For me, music is that outlet, and it allows me to kind of go, "Whoa," and like all my, it allows me to kind of get rid of the many thousands of thoughts that are completely useless to me after I've thought them, and put them down on paper or talk about, stuff. So yeah, that was the first time.
Do you still have the guitar?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
Right. Good. I know that they're special things, guitars.
Yeah.
We've got about 1 million in our flat at the minute.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Only 2 of us play, but we have them all lined up on a rack by the window.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to jump forward in
Okay.
the Vince Freeman timeline.
Right. Oh my God. It's just the way you went, the Vince Freeman timeline. I'm like, I'm the sort of guy that still finds it a little bit odd when somebody asks me to sign a CD. So when somebody says the Vince Freeman timeline, I'm like, that sounds hilarious.
We'll put some crazy effects on my voice. It'll be like, the Vince Freeman timeline. Whoa.
Do it.
But Vince Freeman on The Voice.
Oh, yeah?
How did that come about?
God, hopefully this isn't another really long-winded story because I talk too much. I was in Africa with my wife, and I was doing a concert for an NGO, which is like a national charity. And I kept getting this phone call, and it's about £1.50 a minute to answer the phone in Africa, right? So I just kept on going, nope. And the same number kept on calling me for about 4 days. And then I remember saying to Jackie, I better answer this. And it was a chap that had been hired to be a talent scout for The Voice. And it was a really lovely thing because this guy found me 15 years previously and invited me to do a performance for a new section of the NME. He was working for a record label at that time. And when he got asked to talent scout for The Voice, he was like, he said to me, he goes, "Oh, what?" He said, I wonder if that guy's still around. And he did a YouTube, and he found a cover of me doing a cover of Kings of Leon, Sex on Fire, at this cricket club. And he rang me up and I guess sort of convinced me to go on it. I didn't really necessarily. I didn't know that I didn't know anything about the show, and I didn't really. It wasn't really something I was like, oh yeah, I know what I want to do. I want to be on TV. It was an amazing experience. I can say that. The only problem with competitions, if you're really, really competitive, is that once you're in a competition, or once I'm in a competition, I'm like, I want to win it. I'm gonna win it. I need to win it. I have to win it. And then when you get told, so you're going home, it's like, oh, So yeah, I mean, but the overall is that I left that show, and no one can prepare you for what happens if you. I guess it's these days it's kind of like blowing up on TikTok, going viral, or like a Benson Boom moment, right? Not quite like that, but when I came off that show, I'd been seen twice by over 20% of the UK population on 2 shows, which is because it was the first series. They were getting 20 million plus viewers per show, and I was on 2 shows for about 3 minutes. But that was enough for me to experience the really crazy nature of people tapping you on the shoulder in Wilkinson's while you're trying to find a light bulb for your front room, and they go, "Loved you on The Voice," and it's lovely. But then there's the other thing as well, which I came to realise, because for a few weeks I was like, "This is weird. I feel weird. I don't know why I feel weird," and I'd be like walking down the high street in Cheltenham, my hometown, and you'd see people kind of walk past you, and as they get towards you, they sort of start doing second takes, and then they kind of whisper to their friends, "It's it," like that. It's it took me a couple of weeks to realise that was what was happening. Yeah, it's crazy. It really is kind of crazy how, that I thought I'd been there and done it with regards to stuff like that. I'd won the UK Indie Awards. Up to that point, Ed Sheeran had thanked me on the Plus album. I'd been out to Las Vegas, done a show for Pepsi. Pepsi. I thought I'd been there and bought the T-shirt, and then I went on this national TV, and it's mental. Like my cheeks ached from selfies.
That is the most crazy story about how it happened. I just wasn't expecting you to start with. Oh yeah, just in Africa.
Yeah. Well, I told you. I remember I remember when I got married got married to my wife Jackie, and one of the things that she said during our vows is she said for all the highs and lows, it's never gonna be dull.
I tell you what, she was so right. Do you know what? I've got a little clip to remind you.
Oh God, no!
Of your time on The Voice.
My audition went absolutely fantastic, but it was about 40 seconds in before I got someone to turn their chair around. Danny turned his chair around. So after that, it was plain sailing, and I loved every minute of it.
I turned my chair because there's rawness in there. I've been waiting for a good rock voice, to be honest, and I found it now.
Thanks, man.
Hi, night, Frank. Hi.
Oh, it's little baby face Vince.
Oh God, yeah. It's. I think what's fascinating for me now is that it feels like my life is sort of lots of different lives.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that makes any sense whatsoever, but I look at that and I'm like, that was amazing, but it sort of feels like a different version of me. Back then. I tell you what was really funny. And you won't be able to find it because it got taken down. Oh. When I got knocked out in the battle rounds, I won't go into that story, but suffice to say, I didn't shake Danny's hand as I went past him, and there was what you would call memes now, right?
Yeah.
They were kind of just getting going back then, right? And so there was this little video where somebody had taken the section of me getting off my chair, walking past Danny, and Danny standing up, putting his hand out to shake my hand. And I just literally just walked straight past him. And basically, whoever did the video did this thing where they kind of did that and then rewound it and then played it to the Spice Girls. Who do you think you are? It was the most amazing thing. It was only up for about maybe a week and a half.
Oh, I'm heartbreaking. So it's going to be my life's mission to try and find.
Hey, if you find it, you're going to have to send it to me.
Straight over. One thing I do have to ask about your voice audition.
Yep.
Barefoot.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
I used to do a residency in Cheltenham, and it was the summer. It was really hot, and I used to wear flip-flops from like March till October anyway. That was kind of a thing. And I remember doing this gig, and I was really hot, and I just kicked my flip-flops off, and I just remember I was like, oh, that feels wicked. And it was literally that. That's all it was.
Just a comfort thing.
It was just a comfort thing, and then over the years it became a thing. And the reason why it's not a thing now is genuinely, Jackie turned around to me. She went, "Darling, no one needs to see those Who's anymore."
Because I was going to say, it could be a Paul McCartney sort of thing. It could be just comfort.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'd much rather it you than me. I can clear a room when I take my shoes off. Well, I've got one final question for you.
Go for it.
What's next in the pipeline for Vince Freeman?
Oh, do you know what? The next few weeks. So next year in January we're doing St Pancras Church, and I'm really excited about that. It's an iconic venue. It's lovely. It's small enough that I'll sell it out, and I'm really excited about that. But the next 3 weeks, terrifying. And I'll tell you why. I mean, look, this album is everything. I've poured my heart and soul into it. I've never been prouder of anything I've done creatively. I hope that as many people as possible get to hear it. That's kind of all I'm about with it. The next single is from the album, but it's called Real Love, and we've redone it with the London Community Gospel Choir. It's special, and it's special for so many reasons. It's a celebration, and I think that these days there's less to celebrate, and this is really a celebration of love, a celebration of life, and I feel like it's hopeful, and the addition of the choir, it just makes it really special. We're going to national radio with it, we're going to TV with it, and I guess it's sort of terrifying in the sense that I'm like, okay, what do you think? Yeah, and it's really exciting because, but it's also exciting at the same time because I've kind of waited a really long time to have something like this and be able to, I'm so excited about it. The reaction so far, within the industry, has been, absolutely exceptional, and I just hope it does well as it deserves to.
I am so excited to hear this.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
It's big.
Yeah. So excited. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. Like, you're genuinely incredible.
Thanks, man.
And remember to check out Vince's new album, Scars, Ghosts and Glory, on all streaming services now. CDs, vinyls, t-shirts, get them over on the website on vincefreeman.com, and keep up to date with everything over on his social medias. It's Vince Freeman Official over on the Instagram. Boom.
You did it.